Hey, it's March 11th, and we got 3 new releases that are coming out on Blu-ray and 4K that you're not going to want to miss. And they're from Synapse, Unearthed, and also Troma. So let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to do 3 new releases that are releasing today that should please just about every type of horror fan. Shout out to MVD Entertainment who sent these out to me, as well as Troma, Unearthed, Synapse Films. We're going to do a quick review of each of these, and then I'll get into sort of the extras that are involved in this and what I think of the release. And we're going to kick it off with number 1, Trick or Treat. Yes, this 1986 film has been blowing up online for physical media releases. It actually was put out in a limited edition version from Synapse, and it sold out instantly. So they had to bring it back on 4K, and it's finally out now so that you can have a copy for yourself. This only includes the 4K and not the Blu-ray. Now, as far as this movie goes, we reviewed this actually on the podcast this last Halloween, I believe. And man, it's a fantastic film. At least an 8.5, if not a 9 out of 10. If you like supernatural slashers, this is essentially about a bullied teenage boy who is devastated at the loss of one of his rock legend heroes, Sammy Kerr, who has recently died in a fire. Somehow manages to get a record of his most recent release that nobody's heard, and he plays that record backwards, summoning Sammy Kerr in a demonic spirit form that goes out and kills anybody that listens to the song. Soon he finds out that he's pretty much the only one that can save the world from Sammy Kerr, his hero. Now, this movie was directed by Charles Martin Smith, who, if you remember, was an actor and still is. He actually was in American Graffiti, and he decided to make Trick or Treat his first feature film, which, man, what a knockout of the park. This is one that I'm a little late to the party on. I remember seeing as I was growing up, but there's something that's so classic and original about Trick or Treat. And just the whole playing the record backwards thing, summoning a demonic spirit is just fantastic. It's silly, schlocky, gory, and just everything you could want from a supernatural slasher. Now, Charles Martin Smith, he went on to make some other terrifying and just horrifying tales, such as Air Bud.
You can play.
Terrifying. And don't even get me started on A Dolphin's Tale and that disturbing twist ending. Terrifying. And you know they made actually a part 2 to that? Air Bud made a whole franchise, so we'll forgive you, Charles. This movie stars Mark Price, who plays the kid, Ragman. He was Skippy on the show Family Ties, which was hugely popular when I was growing up. And he went on to do a couple other horror films. We also get Tony Fields, who plays Sammy Kerr, who is just the epitome of like literal fucking rock star in this movie. He is fantastic. We also have Gene Simmons, who shows up in this movie as a DJ, and Ozzy Osbourne, who is a guy who is against rock and roll, which is just fantastic. Hell, we even get Large Marge up in here. Anyway, this is just a fantastic movie. I love all the practical effects and all the elements in this movie. It just has just a little bit of everything from the 80s and sort of that era of like supernatural slashers. Sure, it's not a serious movie, but it's a damn enjoyable one. And if you like Halloween horror movies and you have not seen Trick or Treat, well then you owe it to yourself to get a copy of this. My God. The 4K on this, man, Synapse did this well. It's a whole new restoration 4K from the original camera negative of the 35mm print. It's an HDR10, and man, does it look so good. I thought the Blu-ray was good. Now, if you order ahead of time, you will get the slipcover here, which has sort of like a kind of foil kind of look to it. It's not foil, or it would like be very sensitive. I probably would have left the plastic on, but wouldn't be such a bad idea to keep a plastic cover for that one. It's underneath the coat, so you should be good, but I really like the sheen on it. It looks cool. And then of course you just get the regular sort of front there. There is, of course, the original slipcover here, so if you want to put that one on there instead. On the inside, we get the 4K disc, the Trick or Treat with Ozzy Osbourne on the TV there and Sammy Kerr standing next. Plus, you get your catalog here of Synapse films. Plus, you also get the DTS HD Master Audio of the original 2.0 theatrical sort of sound that they had in this, the mix and everything. All new into 5.1 surround sound, and it sounded really good, guys. We also get audio commentary by director Charles Martin Smith, moderated by filmmaker Mark Savage. There's interviews with writer-director Michael S. Murphy, writer Rhett Topham, and moderated by film historian Michael Felsher. And you get the making of Trick or Treat, all new retrospective featuring Charles Martin Smith, actors Mark Price, Glenn Morgan, and Elise Richards and Larry Sprinkle, and just a ton of extra stuff in here. We also get In the Spotlight. It's a tribute to Tony Fields, featuring interviews with the late actor's family and all of his friends. They got Horror's Hallowed Grounds, the filming locations of Trick or Treat with Sean Clark. There's After Midnight music video, theatrical trailers, TV spots, radio spots, still gallery, and it also features an optional audio interview with the still photographer Philip V. Caruso with the vintage electronic press kit, all in one disc. So I don't know how they did it, because it looks really great and they fit all of that in there. So yeah, kind of makes me wish I would have got it the limited, but you're not missing out too much with this one, guys. So if you're interested, this is definitely one I'm personally excited to add to the collection. But yeah, great release, Synapse. Up next, we have Eating Miss Campbell from Troma. That's right, Troma has been putting out some new movies. This one's actually produced by Lloyd Kaufman and Liam Regan, who did the movie My Bloody Banjo. He is a huge ultra fan of Troma, and it inspired him to make this movie, which is it's a comedy, and it's gonna be hit or miss with some people in that department, but it's essentially about a vegan goth high school student who has basically tried to unalive herself so many times that she ends up in multiple parallel universes of horror movies, like really bad horror movies. And every time she does it, like I said, she keeps waking up in another bad horror movie until finally she ends up falling into a horror romance movie where she falls in love with her new English teacher and develops a problematic taste for human flesh. There's a lot going on in this story. There is a ton of like homage nods in this movie to just about everything you can think of. There was a scene in this movie where the girl is eating donuts and they dipped it in blood. And I swear to God, that was a nod to the Canadian film Blood and Donuts. Do you remember that movie? Anyway, there's just a ton of like homages in here to show appreciation. It flows really well and it's really well shot. It's crystal clear. The scan of this looks fantastic. It's obviously, you know, digital. I didn't find it to be all that funny. Obviously, it's done in that sort of tongue-in-cheek way that a lot of Troma films are done. You know, if you've ever watched any Troma films, then you know everything is over the top and intentionally done so. And a lot of the characters will have traits and things from like other characters in other universes and stuff like that. And they do that in this movie as well. Clearly, a girl who's eating people in school would be arrested and thrown in jail, but you know, the tongue-in-cheek method is to keep her in school anyway, and people just to kind of overlook that sort of minor gripe. Some ways this movie reminds me of the Joseph Kahn movie from 2011 called Detention, which has sort of like a really like fast pace to it. This kind of has that similar kind of vibe to it in some ways, but I didn't think this one was as good as Detention, so just know that going forward. I definitely prefer Detention over this, but I still enjoyed it. I still think it's creative, and I think the guy who shot it and made it is actually pretty talented. Kind of works, but it also kind of doesn't work. So Maybe this isn't his final form, but I think moving forward, we're probably going to see a lot more from him. It really works as a trauma film, but I don't know, what's he got outside of that realm. In any case, it shows promise in this film. Even if I didn't find it hilarious, I still enjoyed my time with it. I would give this one about a 5.5 out of 10. Just lower your expectations on the comedy and just kind of experience the movie for what it is. There is some funny moments in it, but I wasn't over the moon about it. Comedy's so weird like that like some people will really like it. But if you enjoy that whole trauma sort of vibe where everything's over the top and they're throwing a joke a second at you, this might be the one for you. Now, as far as the extras and everything on here, there is no reversible cover. This is the disc that you get. There is quite a few extras on here. You get the audio commentary with the director. You get 7 days of hell making documentary, deleted scenes, outtakes, gore reel. There's a raw B-roll footage that they have, cast interviews. They have the Fright Fest featurette premiere, so it's like kind of shows you the whole thing there. You get an hour of raw behind the scenes footage, the VFX reel, the introduction from Lloyd Kaufman, obviously, which I think there's 2 different ones on that, by the way. There's one about the Ukraine thing, and then there's the one that he does separately. They also have trauma trailers, the Radiation March, and much, much more. But yeah, Eating Miss Campbell, not too bad. Not my favorite movie this year, but not a bad one. Up next, we have 100 Tears from Unearthed Films. And this is the extended director's cut. That's right, the NC-17 film that kind of prevented this movie from getting the exposure that it wanted. But if you watch the extras on this, actually helped it out in some ways too. So it was a gamble, and there's a, lose-win situation going on. Now, I had never seen this movie before, but I knew all about it because I remember this came out in 2007. It was one of those sort of like gore films that they were kind of going for back then. This is obviously a clown film. That is the Gertie the clown right there. This is essentially about 2 journalists who are on the trail of a demented serial killer who may be much closer than they think. They basically are better than the cops in this movie and kind of get to the situations and the scenes of the crime before the crimes happen at some point. The clown in this movie is pretty silent, carrying a large meat cleaver, which is literally the size of his body. He swings that thing around, decapitating people and just like chopping people into bits. And that is like amazing. The practical effects in this movie, which the director is actually Marcus Koch, who actually does special effects makeup, and he did the movies Rot and American Guinea Pig, Bloodshot. If you've not seen that, that's an Unearthed film as well that you can pick up. I've never seen that one, but man, I gotta say that this guy's like practical effects, it's pretty damn impressive. Now the story and the video and how it feels kind of feels like a shot on video sort of style film, but at the time, they were kind of doing that a little bit as well. Not just for the cost, like it's obviously a movie and it's done with 2 journalists who are kind of like fuck buddies, I guess. The humor in it isn't all that great. The writing is not particularly that good, but the gore is. You come for the gore in this, in my particular opinion, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, the fact that this guy's swinging that meat cleaver around is just glorious. The writer of this movie and is actually one of the guys who plays one of the journalists in the movie. He plays the character Mark, and his name is Joe Davison, who's actually in season 2 of Stranger Things as a tech guy, if you remember. But again, no offense to Joe here. I just thought the gore was fantastic. I think what makes this movie work is the simplicity of it. It's so simple and so simplistic that it works for me. I honestly think that this is something you don't need to overcomplicate anyway when it comes to doing a sort of underground slasher that feels like a snuff film in some regards. Just the way this clown goes around and dispatches people is just fantastic. I would probably give this movie about a 6 out of 10. It's not trying to be a big budget movie, so I can't grade it on that level. I gotta grade it within the level that it's trying to go for, which are many movies like this in the past that have tried to do this. And I'm sure for its time, when this came out, it was actually doing some things that you didn't really get to see on a movie. So it was kind of pushing the boundaries there and doing it pretty well. If I take a look at it that way, I definitely would give it about a 6 out of 10. That's not a bad score for this kind of movie. It could even be higher for that level, like a 6.5 out of 10. Just my weird sliding scale that I do with these kind of things, because I'm obviously not going to be able to compare this to something like The Witch or Hereditary or, any of these other films. You have to grade it on a level that it's within in some regards, Expect what you're going to get and then know, where it's going to fall in that. It is a little slow in some parts. The dialogue it has its downfalls, but seeing everybody's bodies turn into bits is pretty awesome. The twist is kind of fun in this movie, although you kind of see it coming, and it is a little bit of a stretch as far as this girl. You'll find out about her in the movie. But yeah, it was actually not a bad movie. I think if I would have watched this back then, I might have liked it even more. There's just been so many other movies that are like clowns and stuff like that are trying to come out that have done things like this since that, I think this one did a really good job. It's not for everyone. It's mostly just for gore hounds and people who are into shot on video. It's not exactly shot on video. It just has that feel about it. A get out there and do it kind of thing, but I like it. And I like what they did here. Now, as far as the extras go on this is the cover. Here is the back. You can see the clown on the back there. He is pretty disturbed. That fucking meat cleaving axe is just a bone axe? What is that, bone cleaver? I don't know. Looks cool as shit. There is no reversible cover, but you do get the disc here. And it is nice to add to the collection. The extras are audio commentary with director Marcus Koch and Stephen Biro. The extras in this are pretty good. It's a audio commentary with director Marcus Koch and Stephen Biro, which I've been saying your name wrong forever, man. I'm sure you're used to it, but I'm so fucking sorry, dude. Stephen Biro. That's how you say it. It's not Biro. I'm trying to get all Italian or something with it. Anyway, there's the original cut of the movie in here that's included. We also get an interview with director Marcus Koch, who has a really interesting story about the whole thing. He's very enjoyable to listen to and to kind of find out the extras about this movie. There's blood, guts, and grease paint making 100 tears. There's also the original behind the scenes footage, the additional behind the scenes, deleted scenes, outtakes, and Marcus Koch's childhood short films. Yes, and we're talking like straight up childhood films, man. Like, it brought me back to like the shit that I used to do in my backyard when I was a kid. So, plus you also get trailers with this, and it is Region A. Obviously, the other films are all region. 4Ks are pretty much all region now for the most part. But yeah, 100 Tears. I'm curious to see who actually had seen this before me. It's just one of the ones that I missed. I knew all about it. There were so many different movies that were coming out at a certain time. And, we're at different parts of our life. Now I'm paying a lot more attention to stuff that I missed in the 2000s that I should have watched. So yeah, thanks Unearth for sending this out. But yeah, guys, that's everything. That's all the releases. There are other releases. It's just these are the ones I got from MBD, Unearth, Troma, and of course Synapse Films. So thank you guys, all of you, for your support. But yeah, let me know. Did you guys pick up any of these? Maybe you got the limited edition of the Trick or Treat ahead of everybody else. I missed out on it, so it's just nice to have a 4K copy. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Hit the like and the subscribe button. Want to know more horror movies that are coming out physical or new on digital? I got it all. But thanks for coming by, guys, and as always, long live the void.